So wanted to make a quick addendum for you guys here. I forgot to mention that as far as the PWM gauge circuit goes, the cool thing about it was I didn't have to permanently hack the wiring in a way that it can't be undone. Obviously, as many of you know, the coolant temp sensor factory is way back there, and it's a royal pain, and it's behind a lift hook, and just everything bad in the world about it. So, and I was thinking, man, I really don't want to cut the end of that wire and then, put this wire to the Arduino on there and then, have something happen and have to undo it and be doing all that stuff underneath the cowl. So what I did was I looked in the factory service manual, which is an outstanding resource when it's accurate, and I found that the ground wire, the wire that goes from the cluster to the sensor, that is the variable ground, goes through C133, which is this big white plug right here that's got a billion wires going through it. And that's really good news, because what I was able to do is I was able to find that wire, and I don't have the, actually, yeah, I do. Bear with me one second here. There we go. Yeah, circuit G20, you can see it right there, it's outlined. It goes through C216, which is the connector on the back of the cluster, C133, which is that big white guy I just showed you, C127 is under the hood somewhere, and then of course you got the plug right there. So, and it describes on here, come on, it describes on here that G20 is a violet, let me get this so you guys can actually read it. G20 is a 22 gauge violet wire with a yellow tracer. So, and there's also a pin out. That's where it is. So, G20 is cavity 8, 22 gauge, violet yellow. And that's where terminal 8 is. So I just pulled that apart, verified that it was the right wire, and I checked it. Not only did I actually inspect the wire, but I also grounded it, and the gauge needle shot up to the maximum, so that told me I was on the right one. So what I did was I pulled this plug out, and I snipped that wire. And what I did is I put a spade blade terminal connection on each end, and then the wire that goes to the harness for the controller just attaches to it with a blade. So if I run into problems with my Arduino, or I decide to go away from that platform, all I got to do is unhook that connection and plug it back in to that, and then it'll work just as good as stock, if you call that good. So yeah, I wanted to let you guys know how I pulled that off, because I was kind of proud of myself there. As far as everything else, it's kind of the Arduino's got it's a 15 pin connector here, and it's kind of there's a lot of wires that go to a lot of stuff. I'll just say it that way because it's simpler. But it's going to work better than it worked when I had it set up. I'm still going to have control here. This is basically going to work the same as it had, except instead of this upper position forcing the fans to high speed, it is probably going to switch between the normal switch temperatures and the toe switch temperatures. And basically the difference there is that there's two arrays stored, and I might actually, oh, my computer went to sleep. Oh, it actually ran out of battery. Oh, no, it didn't. So I'll show you here if you feel like looking at my source code. Maybe. There we go. So I'll go back in here. Okay. So this is where the EEPROM is located. Basically, you can see here that there's two arrays, and each one of those, you know, the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are all stored temperatures for switch points. And so basically what this switch will do, I set the controller up so that it detects the position of this switch. If it's in the low position here, it will populate the switch code with the normal temp variables. If it detects that you're in the high position there, it will populate with the toe temp. And it's basically just two separate ones. So like the only real difference between these, and if I can get back into the serial monitor window here, and I type H, which is my help command, it gives you all kinds of information. Surprise. So you can see here what the values are currently set to. I don't know if I'm actually going to need this, because if this thing really works as well as I think it will, you know, it shouldn't really matter what the switch points are, as long as the fans can keep up with the airflow, or as long as the fans can provide the airflow requirement for the cooling capacity. You know, it shouldn't matter. But if I get into a situation where I decide, yeah, I need a little more airflow, I can just switch this from low to high, and then instead of my fan 1 turning on low speed at, come on, focus. Really? There we go. Instead of instead of the first fan turning on at 205, which again is also not set in stone, I need to test drive this thing and see how it runs, it will switch on at 195. So, you know, just kind of two different ways to do it. I could also set it up so that, you know, if it detects that switch position, it does just force the fans to high speed, but I don't know which one I'm going to go with at this point. It's just, I'm at the point where I need to play with it and see how it's actually working and make changes from there. If it detects the switches in the center position, it will wait for a period of time, half second, full second, something like that, and then it will initiate a fan defeat mode, and it will kill both fans. But because you have to pass through defeat mode to switch between these two, that delay is there so that if you do that kind of thing, it won't kill the fans and then immediately spool them back up. Because the whole point of doing the stagger start thing is to minimize the shock loading on my electrical system. Because even with this, big badass fancy alternator, if I'm driving at night, I can tell when my fans turn on because they dim the headlights. For a split second. I used to have LED headlights in here, and you didn't notice it because then only the dash lights would dim. And I decided to get out of the LED lights, or LED headlights rather, and put some halogens back in, and now it's you notice every time the fans turn on, and it's kind of annoying. So yeah, that's kind of the goal there. Oh, and there's my pretty powder coat job. Hope you like it. I also loomed up the wiring so it looks a lot cleaner now, and I've got a lot of cable management to do still here, but kind of low priority for where we are right now. So yeah,